follow your heart, for only you know which path is right for you. Universal Journeys Radio is about how spirituality intersects nearly with every other aspect of our life, even when we do not see or recognize it. Creativity and expression are our connections to spiritual energy. Many seek to understand and our identity to forge through this process. Universal Journey seeks to help illuminate the different intersections between creativity, spirituality, and identity in order to empower and enlighten. Tonight, we'll be discussing overcoming psychic blocks and scars. And additionally, we'll have some readings in there as well. So, with that said, if you'd like to give us a call, our call-in number is 347-850-8292, and it's 347-850-8292. So, we got some blocks going on there already there, Donny. Welcome.
And I see that there are guests filtering into the chat room, too. So if you guests have any comments to make or if you'd like to contribute to the conversation, you're more than welcome to type. We will read it live.
Absolutely. It's been a little while since I've read any of that, Donny. I'm giving you the reins there, and I was like, okay, can I do this?
I had a feeling you would think that. I was going to be like, it's been a while since Brenda did it. Past few weeks, it's been really crazy, so I feel like there's been a little bit of scatteredness in both of our lives because, at least for me, I know specifically. You had your fun little vacation.
I sure did, and it was fun, very enlightening, spiritually. Oh my gosh, it was great. Love the energy. I could actually live in Nassau, except for what's happening down there right now with that tropical storm and hurricanes, and that's not something I want to do.
Mhm. Yeah, and I was actually thinking today because the theme of the show is psychic blocks and scars, and there are so many different causes psychic blocks. And yesterday and today, I've been feeling a little detached, almost as though a part of me is floating above myself. And I wonder if it has anything to do with that storm that's hitting the East Coast right now. Because yesterday, we started getting the clouds here from it. We're not getting any of the rain, but we're getting the outlying clouds. And once that started happening, I was like, I'm feeling kind of, in a mental fog. So I think weather definitely can be a primary cause of psychic blocks.
Well, you have to remember, too, we just recently went through a blood moon. And this one was one of the ones that was potentially very strong and potent and important as well. And some of the things that were going on with this particular blood moon is getting rid of the old so we can bring in the new. And during that process, or part of that process, is being in a lull or being in a limbo state, because I know I've been going through it as well. And then, switching from doing one thing that you normally do, at least for me for the past year, and giving that reign over to someone else, that's like a loss. And then coming back from such a high energy place like the Bahamas and things like that, it also is like a loss. So it's coming back to, okay, got to be back in this energy. How can I fix myself? And so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm. And, I remember feeling that, too, on the night where we had that super blood moon. And, I felt like there was a clearing going on up in my mind, and a clearing of the soul in general, because there was, this week, though, has been a good week. Even though it's been extremely busy for me, a lot of great things have happened. And I'm wondering if it's because that kind of helped me overcome that psychic that I was experiencing before this past weekend. Not this weekend, but the one before this weekend. And I guess the thing... No, go ahead, Brenda, dear.
No, go.
Well, I was just going to say, sometimes when we don't know that we have a psychic block within ourselves, sometimes natural things that happen that clear those blocks can, help alert us to those things.
Yes, I agree. It can. And it does. So, I don't know. There are a lot of things that I went through while I was down there, especially about the connection between Patrick and I, because he loved that area. He had been in and out of Nassau several times, going back and forth to Cuba, and I got to experience some of that. I could see where he loved it down there. He loved Caribbean and stuff like that, and I got to visit with some of those people down there, and it's beautiful. And that was like, part of me was uplifted. The part of me was cleared away, and it's like, okay, now I don't feel so bad. And I felt a connection with him again, and that was kind of a neat thing. So that connection was gone, and all of a sudden it was back, and it was a great feeling. And then talk about clearing and cleansing. The salt water definitely did that for me. I mean, not only was my skin nice and soft there for a while, the energies that I had accumulated throughout the years was gone. It was gone. I mean, when you submerge yourself into that big old ocean of beautiful blue and white sands, the beautiful blue water and the white sands, it does something to you. So we do have a question in the chat room already, which is kind of a neat thing.
Ooh.
And
what?
Duster said, I would like to know why you lumped psychic blockages and scars together.
Ooh, that's actually a very good question. You don't mind if I take it away here, Brenda, do you? Okay, so the reason why I lumped those two topics together is because sometimes, and we will be discussing this more later in the show, we create our own psychic blocks within ourselves. Usually those psychic blocks stem from doubt. And if we continue blocking important aspects of our intuitive selves, that can cause scars because it may cause us to behave differently. We may push people away. We may continue to doubt ourselves to the extent that we lose opportunities, or we continue to doubt ourselves to the extent where we end up causing ourselves health issues, things like that. That's what I mean when I'm talking about psychic blockages and scars, because those blockages can lead to those scars that remind us every day that we had them. And I think we've all been there to a certain extent until we started realizing that, hey, I need to be conscious of these different blockages, because the more I'm conscious of it, the more I'm able to resolve them and, learn something new or be able to cope with different situations.
I have to agree with that. I mean, just like the thing with going to the Bahamas with Patrick, there was a lot of scars there. Number one, for not being able to be near him or close to him or anything like that physically, but spiritually, I was very, very connected, very, very close. And it just, I mean, those were scars too, and those were cleansed, and things were different, and and they are different. Now, sometimes it takes major incidences to get us out and to get us to realize that our life is going, kind of in the wrong direction, or in a direction that we needed to move in a different direction. So sometimes those major accidents will wake us up and move us forward to where we really need to be.
And I think there are so many diverse examples of psychic blocks, and I think we should use our own experiences, like you just did, to provide some examples. The primary psychic block that I can remember experiencing in my life was about 3 or 4 years ago, actually. When I started doing my undergraduate degree, I was introduced to many people who encouraged my abilities. I'm a fairly strong empath, and I'm very very perceptive usually. And I always kept my intuition wide open without, protecting myself in any way or demonstrating a sense of awareness that, there are things out there that can be damaging. And over the course of time, I was always trying to help other people. I was going out of my way to take on their emotional baggage and resolve their emotional baggage for them without any consideration of how that would affect me. And once I started realizing that happened, I tried finding ways of fixing it, and the only way that I could fix it was by completely shutting off my gifts, my abilities. And that proved to be more damaging to me than actually using them, because if it wasn't for you, Brenda, I don't think I would have been able to, reconnect with my abilities again. But once I started reconnecting with them, it was very difficult to get the hang of it after years of not using them. I refused to be intuitive. I refused to be perceptive in any way. I didn't want to take on people's emotions or anything because I knew that it would just cause me to be overwhelmed, and it just wouldn't do anything. But now that I've worked through that psychic block that I created myself to protect myself, I have a better idea of how much balance I need in order to, help other people when they need it, when they're willing to accept the help, and also help myself. Those are the two main aspects of working through at least this type of psychic blockage. And I'm so glad that I got through it. Thanks to you, Brenda, dear.
You're welcome. Now, you say psychic blockages, but those are also scars, too. Because when you become overwhelmed, say, like you're empathic. I'm empathic as well, so I feel a lot of different energies in people's emotions and attitudes, and sometimes I don't realize that they're not mine and wonder what the heck is going on and where did it all come from. Well, when we go through something like that and become very overwhelmed and we shut ourselves off, then those are scars. Those are scars right there that we're shutting off from because we're being scarred. And then when we go back to it, like, you and I, we talked about it, and this is sometimes where you really need to have a mentor or someone to guide you and to help you to realize that it wasn't as bad as what you think. At that particular time, it was very overwhelming, grant you, because I've been there, done that. But there is an easier way to approach things and to teach you how to block.
Right.
So you have to work through that psychic scar that you went through at the earlier stage of all of this stuff. And once you work through that scar, then it becomes much easier to cope with and to deal with. So that's one of those things. And I don't know if everyone who is enlightened per se can actually help another through that without having that psychic scar or
having experienced
like that
at some point.
Absolutely. And it takes it takes strong people to be able to do that. I'm going to say it takes strong people to be able to help another one out.
Well, and it's interesting that you brought that up too, because I feel like the scar that developed was me being hesitant to ask anybody for help. And when I was where I was several years ago and I was going through this situation, I realized that nobody could guide me through it. Like, nobody knew what paths or what processes I needed to take in order to, balance myself. And I became very insecure about asking for help regarding that because I felt as though everyone around me knew what they were doing and I was the only one that didn't know what I was doing. So, as you can see, that kind of, bit me in the ass for a while, because then I was the kind of person who, I just wasn't open at all.
And that does happen. I mean, I've done it too, because you don't know who you can trust, or because you hear a lot of different things of people out there doing different things and stuff like that, and yet you don't resonate with that. So you really have to be, on guard, and to see if an individual that you can open up to will be able to help you. And there are a lot of times that can't.
Definitely.
To open up to people, because it just feels like if you open up when you're raw to just anybody. So I'm glad that.
Hey, Brenda dear, you're kind of breaking up.
All right. I don't know why, but that's okay.
You're clear now. Perfect.
I can hear you. Yeah, I was going to say, I can hear you clearly now. The rain is going okay. I didn't even get
Is
that.
it bad that I was thinking about that exact same thing?
That's funny. We have.
Brenda, dear. Hello. Well, it sounds like Brenda may have gotten disconnected. We seem to be having some technological difficulties this evening, which is totally okay. It tends to happen every now and then. I think what Brenda was trying to say overall is that we need to be aware of the different nuances that are happening within ourselves, especially on the psychic level, because we don't generally notice this, but a lot of our insecurities can be fed by our own, perceptions of other people. Like we may think, like in my instance, that other people know what they're doing, they're well off, they probably would think that I'm silly for asking these types of questions. Those were the types of scenarios that created those psychic blocks, and that's why it caused me to be disconnected for as long as I was. And once I started resolving them, I noticed that I started feeling more balanced that way. Brenda, are you back?
I'm back. See, that was BlogTalkRadio that did that to me. But that's okay.
Yeah,
Blog
Talk can be temperamental sometimes, so we just got to work with it.
Yep. Anyhow, what I was saying is, Deb DeRue said, great topic. I think we've all been bitten in the ass a time or 10. She got put, or 10. It's how we learn. And this is very true. This is how we learn. And I've done it. I had to learn on my own. I've had to go through those bites, and I had to go through some of the blockages that you talked about. I mean, I can remember one time when I was giving a reading to this individual, and they told me, no, nothing is true. I'm thinking, really? That really tore a big old hole in my confidence. And it took me a good, I would say, month or two to actually break through that and finally realize, no, I am receiving what I am receiving. That's it. Mm-hmm. So if people say, no, that's on them. That means that they cannot accept what I've been giving them. And I've had a confirmation of that, too, because one time a gal was telling me, no, and then, a few years later she'd come back to me, remember when you told me this? And I said, yes. She goes, it was true. So I'm thinking, really? I had to go through all of that?
And see, that's a very important thing that you're bringing up, Brenda, because a lot of the time people can project their blockages upon somebody else and trigger another person's blockage, like they did with you. And it all comes down to that doubt, because we all, I feel like we all try to be, well, most of us, try to be confident in ourselves to some degree, but if we encounter a person who doesn't necessarily mesh with our level or our, self-confidence at that moment, they can derail us. And I think in your situation, that's exactly what happened. I've had people in readings doing that before, too. And the people that do that usually are the ones who project their own blockages on another person.
And sometimes they don't realize it, because all they want is, they don't want to hear about their own stuff. They want to hear about somebody else's stuff, and they want to blame someone else for their woes. And it really is, come on, guys. We have to take responsibility for our own actions. And when we do something, maybe not to that individual, but when we do something to someone else prior to that, things are going to come back and bite us in the butt sometimes. And that's just the way it is. And we have to recognize, okay, here we go. I mean, when I first started, I was really, really new at this. I mean, the first time out to do professional readings, I had two readings. The very first one, this woman, I got this information for her, and it was for her. But she's like, no, I want this, I want to know more about my daughter and my son and stuff like that. And I wasn't getting a whole hill of beans about them, but it was her, and I kept doing it, and it was the worst reading ever. And she derailed my confidence. I mean, the first time out. And so I had to go figure out, okay, what could I use or what could bring me back in from that particular trauma, because to me that was a big trauma. And it's like, if I don't do something to clear this away right now, I'm not going to be good for the rest of this particular time doing these readings, and I may never come back. And that was one of the things. So for me, crystals helped out. I went over and I was guided to an angel light, and I was like, okay, I'm sitting there and I'm holding it and I'm praying and stuff like that and trying to clear the energy away. Then I had another reading. I only had 2 that day, and I had another reading, and the gal sat down there, and I tuned into her, and I told her what I was getting, and what she said. I got someone from the other side, and he was like doing the jig or dancing or something like that, and I told her what he looked like and stuff, and he goes, "Oh my God, he's got his legs." He loved to dance, and his legs were amputated before he passed away. So that was him coming back and showing her that he has his legs back. And then once the reading was done, she stood up and she told the whole room, "She is good. She is good." So that helped me rebuild that confidence back up. But because the other gal didn't want to know about herself, which she needed to know, but she didn't want to know, and it just kind of threw me off. And obviously that's a scar because I still remember it to this day.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and see, the thing is, like, even though we may heal from those things, we always remember them, and I think that's what helps us. That's what helps guide us in, a more positive direction. And Duster in the comment section said that that they had a vision of sorts that let me know it was all happening in order to steer me towards this more spiritual life, which I think that's happened to me before too. Like, not necessarily a vision in my case, but coming to the realization that this isn't me. Like, I used to be this type of person, and I've blocked myself off, and I've become a different person. If I want to recapture myself and be open like I was before, I need to get back on the right track. And that's what helped me a lot, too. So yes.
Yep. I agree, and just recently, through all the changes that's been transpiring, both spiritually and physically, emotionally, and also psychically, for me, I've been in that place. I'm in that place of a little bit of limbo. And I think today is one of those days, or tonight at least, is breaking through that limbo process, not really realizing that that I was in such a state and why I was there. And it actually clicked when I talked to my friend Nathaniel, and then also when I talked to my sister tonight, a little bit of what do you want to call it? Oh, darn it, I forgot. The word is not popping up. Is when you lose someone, so you go, grieving. There we go. So you go through a grieving process. I mean, for a whole year, I'm the president of the Optimist Group, and on Thursday I handed over the gavel because my year is up, and that was a little bit of a grieving there, and I didn't realize how much it meant to me. And then today is the anniversary of my sister's husband's passing, or the accident, and so those all are different things that pop up, and you don't know why. But when someone puts a light on, and you're like, oh, okay, here we go. So.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and see, the thing is, if we do go through a difficult experience, we retain a piece of it all the time. And I think, especially with the optimist thing, Brenda, you slowly begin to realize that experience added to you considerably. And leaving that position was sad because you recall that feeling you received when it added to your consciousness. And now, I guess we always go through a mourning process when we're like, okay, we're moving on to the next step. It's sad to leave the prior step behind, but in order to move on, we have to keep that in memory, and we have to take it with us, even though we may not be there experiencing that all the time.
Yep, and the thing, the challenge that I'm getting right now is not going backwards, not going back prior to that time when I was the president. Because, I mean, I could easily go back to being this lowly Brenda me and stuff like that. But all the stuff that I gained during that whole year, through that whole year, I need to take that and take it by the horns and go forward with it. And that's been a little bit of a challenge. And
see,
like, I gotta go backwards.
The thing is, Brenda dear, I don't think you've ever been the lowly Brenda. Like, to me, you've never been that. You've always been. You've always been like this elevated individual to me, and I think a lot of the times that we define our own identity based on our accomplishments in the physical world.
I do too, and I understand that, because see, I don't see what other people perceive, just like you don't see what other people perceive in you as well. So, but we have our own stuff that we have to work through. People don't normally see that, and trust me, we all go through it. Every single one of us go through it, and so that's where I was at, and I was like, all right, now what do I do, and how do I go forward with this? Because life is changing, and we all go through this. So, in a manner of speaking, some of the past that I went through is an emotional scar, is a psychic scar, and I know that I can go forward, and I know I will. But it's just knowing that we have to go through it. We have to push ourselves through. We have to experience these crazy things. And don't ever think that you're immune, because when you start to think that you're immune from crazy stuff, you get hit harder. I know that one too.
I do too, Brenda dear. All right, so we have reached the first half-hour segment of our show, so we are going to take a break, if that's okay with you, Brenda.
Sure.
And welcome back to Universal Journeys, everyone. Remember, follow your heart, for only you know which path is right for you. For those of you who may be tuning in right now, our topic for this evening is overcoming psychic blockages and scars. And before we get started with the next segment of our show, I figured we could do a couple of advertisements. If you enjoy listening to our show, you're more than welcome to visit us on our Facebook page, Universal Journeys. If you are typing it up in the URL bar, it's facebook.com/UniversalJourneys111. Or if you're on Facebook already, if you just type in Universal Journeys, you should be able to find our page easily that way. Additionally, we are also in the process of getting our shows uploaded to YouTube, so if you enjoy listening to things or watching things on YouTube, go to Universal Journeys and subscribe to our YouTube channel. All right, back to you, Brenda.
Yay! I love Anya. She does, or they do a great job. She does a great job.
Oh my God, Anya, I could go on and on about how awesome Enya is. In fact, she's releasing a new album soon. It's her first album in several years, so I am super excited about that. And I really felt as though we needed some Enya music in our collection. So, yay, Enya.
Yay. Go, 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 girls. Go, guys. Go, yay. But to get back to the psychic blocks and scars and stuff like that, there are things that we learn throughout our paths and journeys on this spiritual journey itself that we have to push through. We have to go through in order to understand what it is to be on a spiritual path. And that may sound a little weird, a little funny, but as we grow spiritually, we are given different things to study, to learn, to experience. And through our experiences is how we learn. So, yes, we do have to overcome some of the mental, physical blockages, and that's emotional as well, that stem from our childhood or adulthood or whenever. It is one of those things. We all experience things that put scars on our hearts and emotions and causes block. Now, I can definitely tell you with the incident with Patrick, and this is a big thing in my life. Is Patrick was a priest, so we connected with one another in '97 for the first time, and I had this grandiose idea that we would one day get together, and that didn't quite happen. In 2010, he passed away. Well, that was a lot of things that I went through with him on an emotional level, and I felt on the emotional level of not being able to touch him, to talk to him, to, tell him my secrets, and to talk about his and his wants and desires and mine as well. That was very, very hard. It did leave an emotional scar. And so it's breaking through some of those blockages today that I'm at. And it's a challenge, but that love is there. I learned a lot about spirituality through him, a very untraditional way of learning, but I learned quite a bit from him. And because of him, I've experienced things like going to Nassau, Bahamas, and going to Peru, and being with shamans down there. So, he was my muse at that particular time, and I know for his writing, I was his muse.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to experience some of those things.
Yeah, before you can understand that they exist, there has to be a certain degree of experience that distinguishes them.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to do a little research on psychic blockages to see what other information that we could find. And I found this site, and this article is written by somebody named Nathaniel, ironically. And and I think this is a reliable source. It seems reliable, but this individual has listed 7 common blockages in psychic development and how to deal with those blockages. So the first one that he has listed is lack of belief, and I'm going to quote exactly what he's saying. Quote, do you believe in the reality of psychic phenomena? Do you believe that psychic abilities are real? Maybe you do, maybe you don't, but the real reason is, what is it and what is it that your subconscious believes in? If your subconscious doesn't believe that you can see auras, then no matter what you do, you won't see them unless you reprogram your mind into believing. This can be done through affirmations or intense patience. Think about this. 6 months of trying to see the aura is exactly the same thing as spending a month on writing down affirmations. It's about reprogramming your mind, telling yourself essentially that you do believe that you can see. And I think that's a very interesting point, because a lot of the time we're always telling ourselves we can't do it, we can't overcome, we don't believe in ourselves, we don't believe in various other things. And I think that lack of belief manifests itself within us as a blockage, and having that blockage starts to, cause things to spill over into other aspects of our lives. I think of psychic blockages as think about having a pot of water on a stove with a lid on it, the lid being the blockage. At a certain point, that water is going to overflow and cause some problems. That's essentially what a psychic block is, and belief is one of those things that can trigger a psychic block. And I think for me, when I was describing my psychic blockage earlier, my problem was that I didn't believe in my own abilities. And because I didn't believe in my own abilities, I didn't use them, and because I didn't use them, I lost myself.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting cycle.
Well, and it is an interesting cycle. The thing is these are all God-given abilities that most people think, it's the devil, it's the devil. I beg to differ with you with that, because we all have it. Mothers have it especially with the mother's intuition and everything else. You can't tell me that that's from the devil. I'm sorry, because that's not. The devil didn't do that. God gave you that ability, and this is how we're formed. And this is what we have to go through to be able to keep ourselves safe, keep our loved ones safe. I mean, you have to have that. So why are we blocking that? And, you gave a great analogy with the pot, the boiling pot, and the lid on it, because there are a lot of times that when we cut off our psychic awareness and abilities, our head, we start to get headaches. Guess what? It's because of all that pressure that's building up inside, and that lid is so closed that there's nowhere to go, and that causes you pain. So it doesn't mean that you have to totally take that lid off or open up totally, but a little bit at a time so you can relieve some of that pressure that's there, and then you can come out with feeling okay one step at a time. Take baby steps to open up. Somewhat like you did, Donny, after closing off, and I had talked to you for quite some time, and we opened up a little bit by little bit by little bit by little bit, and look at where you are now. So
exactly, and that happened over the course of 2 years, it seems, if I remember correctly.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, we really set our own limits based on how we get through it, too.
Yep, and, so if you're going through some things, you're going through turmoil, and you're afraid because of an incident that happened to you, all I say is open up just a little bit, just a little, to allow some of that pressure to be relieved, and then, touch your toe, just one little toe at a time. It's like one little baby step at a time. And if you can find someone out there or someone comes to you that can help you, then they will be able to also help show you how to protect yourself and things like that. And protection, especially when you're so vulnerable, is something that really needs to be done. Meditation is a great way to overcome blocks as well. Meditation, yoga, and so on and so forth. So.
Well, and the thing is, meditation is also a good way for us to cultivate our beliefs, good way to help provide those affirmations that help, like that first step that I was talking about, provide those affirmations in order to tell ourselves that, we are able to do this, we can do it, this does exist. So I think following that, I mean, it's at least, I just said it like 4 times, oh my goodness, at least... It at least puts you in the proper mindset in order to overcome those blockages. I think I've had like 4 cups of coffee. That's why I'm stuttering. So forgive me. At least it'll be entertaining, I hope.
You're doing fine.
I try.
You're doing fine.
Okay, so let's go on to the second one on Nathaniel's list. And he says it's the opinions of others. And he says, your subconscious is programmed not just by you and only you, but also by the people around you. Do you believe in the opinions of others? And he lists some bullet points here. He says a lot of people think that psychic abilities are just wrong and that they should not be used by anyone, which is a reference to what you were just talking about a little while ago, Brenda. Or that they're unnatural and no one wants to be a freak, so no one who considers himself or herself normal should be willing to develop psychic abilities. If you accept this way of thinking, then your subconscious will consider it as your own opinion, and it will block your development efforts. Psychic abilities, this is the next bullet point, psychic abilities are a gift. It is a common belief of some people. Well, I don't know if I necessarily agree with what he's saying here, but he says, and if you accept it, then there is no way that you're going to learn psychic abilities consciously unless you believe that you can receive such a gift. Okay, now I see where he's going. But if you don't consider yourself worthy of such a gift, then learning things as the mind teaches, I mean, it's not going to work. I thought at first he was going to say that psychic abilities aren't a gift at all. I was like, where? Anyway, the next bullet point is psychic skills are evil, which is, again, reference back to what you were saying, that a lot of people view them as being, satanic things. If you've heard that a lot, and especially when you have accepted this point of view in the past, then it's going to block you just because you don't want to be evil or use things that are evil. And basically it's that whole duality between defining whether or not a person is good or evil that causes that blockage. And that's one of the ways that, psychic blockages are triggered. And a lot of the last bullet point, people use the reasoning that psychic abilities are anti-Christian, and the fact people often don't want to have abilities that conflict with their spirituality. And in Christianity, psychic abilities have often been discouraged and considered evil. So, but people don't realize that psychic abilities aren't dependent on what religion you choose. Your psychic abilities are dependent based on you, yourself, what you were born with, basically, what you've grown with over time. So a lot of the time, another blockage or another thing that causes a blockage are our perceptions of people's opinions around us. And I know I've experienced that many times.
Absolutely. Christianity does that quite well, actually. And I can remember, it's funny, because Patrick mentioned something about me being psychic, and to me, I mean, learning Christianity and not necessarily growing up in it, but learning that, you know, being psychic is wrong and it was the devil's work, and I didn't want to be psychic, so I kind of dumbed it down. In actuality, that's not what it's meant to be, because this is a God-given gift. Now, what it's meant for in the Bible and Christianity in general is to stop you from really touching and connecting with God.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's also part of control. If you don't go beyond that focus, beyond that aspect of where they're at or what they're teaching, then you really cannot connect truly with God. I mean, seriously, you may be you know, inspired in different things like that, but even then, when you start that process, when you pray, when you meditate, when you do all these things, that gets you closer and closer to God. No matter what you do, if you keep reading the Bible, if you keep, you know, praying and everything else, you eventually will get to that higher state of consciousness where you start to hear the voice. And I don't know why they think that they have the key or the inside view on God. Why can you receive messages from God and someone else can't? That makes no sense whatsoever to me. And I've run across that several times lately. Yeah, with Christianity. It's like, oh, I got this message from God. I'm thinking, really? You get messages from God and we can't get messages? What's up with that?
It's almost like, gee, you're saying, oh, psychic abilities don't exist, but then you're suggesting, oh, but I can communicate mentally with God. It's like, that's a contradiction.
That's a psychic ability. That is very much.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my God. It's the crazy stuff. But, so those bullet points that you referred to from Nathaniel, I mean, I think he was pretty spot on with those. Because we do go through all those, and those are a part of all of that. So.
Exactly. Well, and we're always so worried about what other people think. We're always so worried about people's perceptions of us because we adjust ourselves to different social situations in order to become more acceptable, in order to be like everyone else. And we do that because people who aren't familiar with psychic abilities instantly assume that they're horrible things, that because they are different, that means that, you know, we're a threat of some sort. And that kind of mindset is something, I think that's what causes a lot of the problems we have in the world today, is that sense of, oh, I'm afraid of this, I don't understand it, so I am going to ostracize it.
Right. And it's the fear that makes us ostracize it. It is the fear. And if we can get past the fear, and the fear is placed there because of religion. And I'm not just saying Christianity, but religion. There is a fear there. Now, the Eastern belief systems and stuff like that, they teach you through that stuff. They teach a little bit differently. They teach you to open up. They teach you to understand. They teach you all this stuff. Where some religious faiths like, no, you cannot do that. You cannot be this way. You're it's crazy stuff. God is not in a box. God is bigger than the box.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we trying to put him in a box? Or him or her or it?
Because if we put it in the box, it helps us feel better because then we believe that we can control it. And I think that's
you
what...
might have a key there.
Well, but people are always trying to control things, control social situations. They're always trying to control people's perceptions. And, I mean, they don't realize that the easier way is just to simply go with the flow. And I feel like in most situations that's pretty much evident, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. True. And we do know we have a caller in the call center. And when we come back off a break, we'll definitely get the caller. So I just want to let you know, caller, that we're not ignoring you.
Yes, so if you would wait for us to come back from break, it'll be excellent, and we'll get right to you, okay? Yeah, we'll be going on break here in a couple minutes.
Right. So it's just, so if we could get past those fears and understand that it's not the devil was created by man, okay? Yes, there are things out there about angels and Lucifer, and really talk about Lucifer. I just read something, and I kind of knew this before, but it was nice to reread it again, that Lucifer, do you know what Lucifer really means? Lucifer means the morning star. What is the morning star? Hello, it's the sun. Why are we considering Lucifer bad when Lucifer is the sun, the morning star? So it's just crazy.
Yeah, that is interesting. Well, you know, the thing is, a lot of the time, our perception of the devil is created within ourselves. We create it with our own insecurities, with our own hindrances that we place upon ourselves. And we don't understand that. And in that lack of understanding, we try to project that sense of self-doubt onto other people, and we try to prevent them from doing what they need to do. And I think that's why a lot of people with psychic abilities get criticized, because people like that create their own doubts, create their own, you could metaphorically say, inward demons that they try to cast out at other people in order to, you know, knock them down too.
Well, and it's a good way to responsibility on someone else's shoulders instead of their own. And that's a big thing in spirituality. We learn to take on our own responsibilities. You know, and that's the main thing, is when you decide and you figure out that you're responsible for everything that happens to you, then some of the other huge blockages goes away. But most people would rather blame it on the devil or God or something like that. It's like, look, you're a creator. You're technically a creator, God or goddess, and you're creating your own world. You're creating your own life. Why are you not realizing that? You create life itself. Thanks to the sperm and the egg, we create human beings. Why do we think that we can't create our own life? Be it good, bad, or indifferent, we still are responsible.
Exactly. And I think I just lost my train of thought. It derailed. Oh no. I was gonna make a statement about it was about religion in general, actually. Like religion, while not all religions, many religions like the Judeo-Christian religions try to, you know, present this sense of open-mindedness, but in themselves, these religions are always trying to place everyone and everything in a box, and they don't take responsibility for anything because they always have the, let God deal with it mentality. Sometimes you have to deal with things yourself. But God didn't give us these independent minds to not use them.
That's exactly
that's
right.
my opinion.
That's my opinion too. And once we realize that we're responsible for everything that we do, we begin to realize that, okay, all right, and it's not God's fault that something happened to us, or it's not the devil's fault that made me do it. You know, it is our own self. It's our own God being inside. It's our own devil being inside of us that make us do these things, not a fictitious entity.
Exactly.
And I said that very openly with the devil and God. Okay? Just want to say that. We have to believe in something, and something we do believe in.
Right. Well, the thing is, though, when it comes down to belief, we place more belief in other things than we do ourselves. And and I'm not saying that belief in God or belief in religion isn't important, but we can't just completely thrust our entire identity upon that belief. We also have to cultivate that inward belief in order to understand that we are intelligent people. We have the ability to work through things. We have the ability to cope and heal. And the reason why most people can't is because of this very purpose. They place all of their energy into something that won't help them through. I mean, I'm not saying that, religion can't help them, but I feel like religion also encourages us to understand that we can help ourselves. And this is actually something that my grandma always said. God helps those who help themselves.
That's exactly right.
And I have always remembered that quote. And I think that's something that is applicable. We need to help ourselves before we expect help from the outside.
Well, and it states in the Bible, knock and it shall be open. Seek and you shall find.
Exactly.
So on and so forth. And it's in the Bible. So, I mean, everything there that we're speaking of is in the Bible. But people choose to only use certain aspects of the Bible for their benefit and to control. So
exactly.
It's just wake up, guys. That's all I got to say is wake up. There is a much better, more profound, a more interesting world than just the suppression that we've been put in. There is no limit. There is no thing, and we lost our caller. So with that said, it's 8 o'clock, and it is time for break.
Right.
Shall we listen to another Anya?
And welcome back to Universal Journeys, everyone. Follow your heart, for only you know which path is right for you. Oh, my gosh, I just love that song so much. It makes me so happy. Anyway, so for those of you just tuning in, we've been talking about overcoming psychic blockages and scars over the past hour of the show. And we've been going through various causes of blockages. And I think we wanted to talk about a recent situation in the media that has provoked a similar, type of reaction, a blockage of sorts, you could say. Brenda, would you like to introduce it? I feel like you will be able to articulate it better than I can.
Sure. This particular blockage, it happened when Pope Francis came to the United States. And when Pope Francis came to the United States, it was beautiful. There was a lot of energy. People were like, wow, this guy is really great, so on and so forth. He met with several different people and things like that. And all of a sudden, when he gets back out of the United States, this Kim Davis stuff comes up and is promoting her lawyer is promoting this, the Pope backs us and backs me on what my thing is. Like, no. And I had a lot of my friends contact me and say, is this real? Is this true? I mean, I can't believe this guy, he's done this, and he's had a private meeting with Kim Davis, and he backs her and things like that. And to me, that's like, really, guys? Wait, you got to wait, because the media is playing on something to bash him and what he stands for. And to what do you want to call that? To grandiosize what she has done, and that's crazy. And like Deb DeRusse put in the chat room, she has some nerve, and yes, her lawyers have some nerve too. But the thing about all of this, and it finally came out, is yes, the Pope did see her, but not in a private thing. She was with a group of people, and the one person who did this and orchestrated this was an archbishop or archcardinal or something like that, because he is an anti-gay person.
Mm-hmm.
And he is the one who orchestrated this. The Pope did not know about this menial thing that these individuals were actually doing, you know, in the United States. And it's like, really? Because I would say not a day before that, or it might have been a day or two before that, he actually had a private meeting or a meeting with a gay individual. So it's like, really, Kim? Really? You and your lawyer took advantage of this? You're not even Catholic. You would even say that, oh, well, they are, what do you want to call it, worshiping idols. So you're not Christian. So, excuse me, you used the Pope to do this? How dare you? Literally, how dare you? Not that I'm saying that...
Oh, go ahead, Brenda, dear.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, not to mention, she is preying on a lot of people's insecurities regarding religion. And I myself am one of those people. Like, I understand that religion is not perfect and that there are instances where religion is really good and then there are instances where religion is really bad, and it made it seem like she was using religion in a very negative way in that instance. And she was knowingly using the Pope for this too, which I think is just ridiculous and horrible. And that almost caused a lot of people to, you know, distrust the Pope because of that. And I think above it all, like, we need to be more conscious of these different situations happening, because usually there's always something that's happening that we may not see, something below the surface. And thankfully the Pope kind of, you know, need that one in the bud.
Well, you know, what I was going to say just before this is I know that there's flaws in this Pope, okay? This guy, you know, he has his agenda. He has what he does. There are things that he walks around or skirts around and stuff like that he won't make a commitment with, you know, and I know there's some underlying stuff that's going on. However, with this type of incident, this is something that he would not even engage in, because he's been to be so politically correct and not step on toes. So in the American society is totally different than the European society and the not the North America, but the South Central America on their belief systems. We are very open. We can be very negative, and we take things and we twist them so bad, the media does here, that it tries to get people to actually go against something that is good. Now, like I said, not everything that the Pope does is on the up and up for me, but I also am very connected to him, and I can sense when something is not quite right there. So, I mean, I guess I'm lucky that way, but I knew what they put out there in the media was not correct.
Right. And I think
and
the
I'm
media
glad it wasn't
also,
correct.
well, and I am too, I think the media also was basically a group of people that, you know, misinterpreted everything too, because they didn't see the whole picture. And now that they've seen the whole picture, they're correcting it. I do think that some of them know what they're doing, yes. But I do think that a lot of people, like Kim Davis, I feel like Kim Davis and her lawyer know how to use the media to their advantage.
And that's yes, I agree with that, you know, but I have to say the media knows what the heck they're doing. It's all a propaganda machine, and it will get you to do what they want you to do. It goes on the chaos theory. When you cause chaos in a certain thing, you're making it to where you're hiding something else that is more important or that should be looked at. So the media does that hype, and they really did the Pope a disservice here. But I'm glad that the Father Lombardi, or whatever you want to call it, came out and said, okay, this is what happened, you know, deal, and the Pope does not back this woman, which I already knew that, And it's just, he's not that way. Now, before we go on, we have Carrie Phillips, who is in here on the chat room, and she says, I wish the Pope would have addressed the good people of Roseburg, Oregon with love and compassion, as our president remarks had a cold feel and is one more tally for his opinion of gun control. And then she goes on to say, I can't wrap my mind around why a church is planning to protest at the funerals. I agree with that. I don't understand why they would do that either. In which church is protesting at the funerals? Now, it's interesting, Carrie, but I do believe the type of church that's protesting at soldiers' funerals and other funerals like that is a Baptist group out of Florida.
Oh, the Westboro Baptist Church. Yeah, that's why I asked her that question, because I was not sure if it was the Westboro Baptist Church doing that or a different church. Regarding the point that you made, Carrie, about the president's remarks, I do see where you're coming from, and I honestly think that the reason why his reaction sounded so cold is because this is a problem that's been happening, and it's been growing in frequency. So I can imagine that he probably wasn't feeling good about the situation, and it's sad that type of situation should happen. And I completely the Westboro Baptist Church, which I'm assuming is the church doing the protesting, they are more of a hate group than they are a church, and I don't think anybody will ever understand why they do the things that they do. The best thing that we can do is to continue spreading open-mindedness, which is the exact opposite of what they tend to perpetuate.
Absolutely. And when you're supposed to love your human being, your fellow human being. It's in the Bible, love thy neighbor as thyself. And they are not doing that. They are not loving one another as they do themselves. And maybe they hate themselves, and that's why they do the things they do. Who knows? But the Bible is there to help. Yeah, it is a psychic blockage. That's exactly right. And the funny thing about it, and this is something Donny and I discussed a little bit earlier in the day about this archbishop and what he did to scar the image of Pope Francis with this Kim Davis thing, is a lot of times I'm noticing that those who fight the hardest against gay rights are those who themselves are gay and do not want to be found out. We had an incident here in Midland, Michigan, where we had this preacher down there, and he was on the pulpit, and he was, fighting against the being anti-gay and everything else, and the gay rights. He was fighting against the gay rights, and it comes to find out that he was on a gay site, half naked, soliciting, people, guys. Needless to say, they found out, and he is no longer a pastor there. My question
Not to mention he was married too.
Yeah, and he was married too. So it's like, okay, guys, gals, be yourself. Don't knock and don't take out and take away from who you really are. You have to be yourself. You can't hide that. People know. People are not dumb. People know. They can sense it. So why can't you just say, I am who I am, and that's who I am? And love who you are. Don't hate who you are.
Exactly.
You can't help it. You cannot fix that. That is who you are. It's not a disease. It is who you are. You are that loving individual inside. Be yourself. Bring that love out. And when you bring that love out, you bring it to the whole world. And that's where we need to be at these days. We need to be that loving individual, loving ourselves as we love other people. Because that's the only way to be, and that's the only way.
Hate does not accomplish anything. And
No.
It's actually an excellent segue into the next point of this article, because the third psychic blockage, or thing that causes psychic blockages, is aggression and hate. and he says that there is no place for hate nor aggression in the psychic mind. The more aggression and hate you have, the less psychic you are. Hate towards religion, hate towards miracles, hate towards psychics, hate towards yourself. If a person doesn't like Christianity and Christianity is related to angels, and if you think that all angels are Christians and that they come from a Christian mythology, then how can you open yourself to an angel for guidance? That's an example that he provides. And hate toward anything will prevent us from understanding it. We can't simply throw mindless hate without entertaining the thought of, this is different, yes. How is it different and why? And if it does make you feel insecure or fearful, you have to ask yourself, why am I feeling fearful of this? What is triggering that response? And in order to, and that's the best way to work through that blockage, is asking yourself questions and understanding its difference and your own reaction to its difference.
I happen to like angels.
What was that, Brenda, dear?
I happen to like angels. And angels are not necessarily Christian. They're called many things. And to dispel a myth, angels do not have wings. It is their energy that looks like wings. So that mythology is not quite correct. Doesn't mean that they don't help you, though.
Exactly. But like the article is saying, though, if we throw aggression at things that we want to believe in, then how are we going to benefit from that belief? Or how are we going to benefit in any way? Like, there's just no room for benefit in that instance.
That's true. That's true. Anytime that you throw aggression at something, you're not going to receive anything good out of it. I just don't see that at all. So Carrie in the chat room says, I have been ill since Tuesday, and going out with all the sadness and negative in the community makes me feel so much sicker. And my response to Carrie was, Carrie, you are beautiful and you show beauty. You are love and you show love. And when you do that and it comes from within, it actually dispels the negativity and everything else around you. Is if you can go within and feel the love and energy that you yourself exude, you'll be able to dispel that. I know it's easier said than done, but if you practice that, it definitely will. It will help. It will help. Just changing the mindset will help.
Exactly.
And using protective
mood.
Huh? And
you hit it on the head.
Yeah, and I forget. We're all human. I forget. I go out there and I'm like, and then realize like, oh, Brenda, the thing is, when we talked about this on last Sunday's show, actually, is sometimes you have to simply go with the flow. If something is affecting you and you can't overcome it, then ride the rapids until it ends, because sometimes fighting against it can be just as damaging as not doing anything at all to protect yourself. True. And Duster put out, allow God's love to broadcast through you. And Karen says, thank you. And that is once you just switch your mindset a little bit, and that's when I realized that, okay, I'm the one that has to change, because I'm the one projecting this stuff out to other people. And so I can experience that. So once and this is something I've learned throughout the years and I've, experimented with, once I change my mindset and I take responsibility of the way I'm thinking and acting, it's miraculous how everyone else starts to change the way they think and act too. So it is my responsibility to change my thoughts and my, way of acting. And once I do, everyone else follows suit, which is really weird. And it's excellent. like a heavy burden, but yet it's still, okay, that's the easy fix.
Exactly. Okay, so if we go on to number 4 of this list of things that cause psychic blockages, Nathaniel lists financial issues, which I thought was very interesting. And he says that money can be a serious problem for many. First of all, constant worries about money and material safety create problems on your root chakra. Without good grounding, it's hard to achieve proper level of energetics. But this is not the only thing that might go wrong regarding money. And he goes and lists some examples of how money can serve as a blockage for us. And for psychics, especially if you want to make it a career, a lot of blockages occur when psychics tell themselves that they don't like the fact that that psychics take money for their services, or they think it's wrong to take money for teaching people about psychic development, or if they believe that it's wrong taking money for teaching people about psychic abilities, or and then, well, what happens after that is then the subconscious merges with that perception of money, and that's what causes that psychic blockage. And I've never really thought of it that way. I thought that was very interesting.
I agree with that. And we do get caught up with, oh, well, you're a psychic and you're supposed to do this for God's sake or will or whatever. I'm like, come on, guys, no, that's not, because you're stopping your flow from going through. And I have to tell you, I've been there too. I've done that too with other things, and especially with money. I'm a Taurus, so Tauruses like to have money set aside, and then when we don't have money to do what we want to do, and I believe that we tend to get down on ourselves, and we tend to feel negative and things like that. And really all it is getting past that blockage, breaking through and saying, no, I have abundance. So, it is, I can manifest and bring this to me. But for the psychics, unfortunately, because of because of the bad connotation from religion, psychic is bad, we are not supposed to take money. We're not supposed to accept money for the services that we provide to help other individuals out. To me, that's poppycock, because if anything, we help people more than others realize, by far. And we deserve the financial rewards that come with that, because we do expel a lot of energy helping other people through different situations, because we have to use all of our sensory perceptions to be able to tune in to that individual, to help them to be able to be clear and to help them figure out what might be a step for them. Not that it has to be that step, but we give them options. In talking to loved ones on the other side, too, to help the loved ones here in the physical world, that takes a lot, too. And people don't realize that. It's not free. We all are pushing and using different type of energies in things. Sometimes those energies, if we don't have the equal exchange, monetary with psychic energies, then we hurt ourselves and we become sick. And so it really is, you have to, there's balance there. I mean, it is literally a balance. And, I mean, look at the John Edwards and the Sylvia Browns and the James Brown Pross and some of these other psychics who make, hundreds of thousands of dollars, I didn't say thousands, but hundreds of dollars on readings. We all should be able to do that. We all should be able to say, yeah, we deserve that. And that's an issue with a lot of women, because we think that, well, we don't deserve to make money like that. My foot, you're giving out as good information as those individuals are. It's just that you haven't put yourself out there to do that. They've got that balance. They've got that balance.
You're not only sacrificing your own time, but you're utilizing your own energy to assist somebody else. And I think, like a lot of people, I remember when I first started out doing readings, this was way back when I, literally first started, I didn't accept any money from people. And I had this one individual who was like, but you deserve it. Like, you go out of your way to help people. You deserve it. And I had to convince myself deep down that, do I deserve this? Do I not deserve this? Is it something that will help other people and something that will end up benefiting me? And deep down I had that insecurity that I shouldn't be benefiting from this. But in all honesty, if you are going out of your way to sacrifice a piece of yourself, I mean, it's okay to receive some form of benefit. Accept it. Sometimes not accepting it can be even worse.
Right, exactly. It's worse on you. Exactly. So, I mean, that happens in other facets of our life too. It's like my business that I just purchased in May. I didn't know how to go out and say, okay, it's how much I want for this particular item, or this is what it's going to cost for me to be able to do that. That's a challenge. And it goes back to, well, I don't deserve, this amount of money. And it's like, really? Really, Brenda, what are you doing? So we have to break through that. And women have a hard time with that, knowing what their worth is.
Exactly.
Women have a hard time with that. So, and then Duster said some of the more, he's got things popping up here. It says some of the more publicity known ones are holding online events that cover large numbers at a lower cost. That's very true. And then who else? Oh, I have trouble with the word psychics and psychic. I do too, Duster. My thing is I put out there intuitive. But it comes right down to it. It is a psychic ability. It is a psychic ability, being intuitive, being a medium, being, the palmistry individual, the palmist and stuff like that. It goes back down to the psychic awareness energy. One is math. Wait. What do you mean by, Duster, what do you mean one is math? Anyhow, we'll continue to go with that. But
physics versus psychic. Okay.
Yeah. The word psychics and psychic, yeah. So, and Deb knows that I have an issue with being called a psychic. I don't anymore. I don't really care because it's all energy. Yes.
Right. Well, Brenda, dear, do we want to go on one last break real quick? Because that half hour went by quickly.
Yeah, it did. So go ahead and pick the next song, too, for us, if you would, please.
All right. If you were waiting for us, I just noticed we had a caller call in. We will be right back, okay? And welcome back to Universal Journeys, everyone. Follow your heart, for only you know which path is right for you. For those of you who may be tuning in right now, we've been talking about overcoming psychic blockages and scars over our past 1.5 hour segment. And we've been referencing different things that's been happening lately that could be considered psychic blockages as well. Then before we get to our caller and the next segment of our show, I wanted to do a brief promotion for my own YouTube channel. For those of you who are interested in LGBTQ rights activism or anti-bullying advocacy or anything activisty, I do a lot of those things on YouTube. And if you want to find me there, it's youtube.com/Donny Winter, DONNY Winter. There should be links to our different sites listed in the description area of our show. Okay, Brenda, so should we take our caller?
Absolutely, go for it.
All right. Hello, caller, you're on the air.
Hi. I actually didn't have a question. I was just listening.
Oh, you didn't have a question? You're just listening? Okay, that's perfectly fine. Well, thank you for calling in anyway.
We'll put you back on listening mode.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. And sometimes that happens. That's perfectly okay.
Yeah, that's awesome. You like that.
Okay, Brenda. So let's get back to going through that list of different things that cause psychic blockages. And if I remember correctly, the last one that we did was number 4, which is finances. Number 5, which I also thought was an interesting one, was relationships. And the author of this article says, relationships and emotions regarding love or friendship are stored within your heart chakra, and this chakra is responsible for transferring a lot of positive spiritual energies. Blockages in this field might be problematic. Generally, every friendship or love problem can create blockages that can lower the energy flow. Thus, such weak flow might result in problems with psychic abilities and spiritual guidance. And he provides a few examples of relationships causing psychic blockages, and the first one is people who end up, dating a psychic, and if something happens and the psychic ends up hurting you in some way, people develop almost a stigma against, anything psychic. And, I actually kind of went through something like this once a long time ago, and I dated someone who was a psychic, and I was very close to me, and ended up hurting me, and I was just like, I am not having it. I completely wanted nothing to do with my own gifts, and that was damaging.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is interesting because, Patrick, even though he was a priest, he was very intuitive, and his gift was actually telecommunication. No, what is it called? Telepathy. There we go. His gift was telepathy, which he could hear everything I said. He tuned in so well. And for me, I'm empathic, so I could feel, and so I felt all these emotions. That can be a little disarming, especially when someone knows all your freaking thoughts and is like, I don't have any freedom. There's nothing. I can't go anywhere without that individual knowing everything that I'm thinking. And believe me, that is hard. It is hard to realize that people know your thoughts, and you have nowhere to go to get them not to be able to hear you. Okay.
Yes.
Because, and I should have been used to that because my ex-husband's the same way, but he never talked about that. He never said that when we were married, and I didn't find that out until afterwards. So, but still, your thoughts are supposed to be your private own thing. Yeah, right. They're not. People listen to you all the time, and we don't even realize it. And especially people who are telepathic can really tune in. And a lot of times they don't do it, on purpose, but they can tune in. And there is no privacy there. There is none. And that makes it tough. I had to go through that.
Definitely.
That was a hard one to swallow for me.
Well, that one's especially hard because it's very personal. It's very, very personal.
Yeah, because you got some nasty thoughts going on up there sometimes, and you don't want people to know what you're thinking, and they're like, they know what you're thinking, like, oh, shit, now I have to change the way I think. But it helps you in the long run. It really does help you because then you start to think differently. You start to think of being better, and you're not so negative, and it really makes you think differently. And now I just realized something, but that's okay. So it really does make you monitor your thoughts and what you think about people by having other people, knowing other people can tune into you.
Exactly. Yep. And I know you helped me with that too, because you can definitely sense when another person is thinking in a specific way, you're being down on yourself right now, you're doubting yourself, stop doubting yourself. And I know you've helped me with that too, because when you first met me, oh my gosh, I was a fountain of doubt.
Yes, you were.
But like you were saying earlier, we all come, a lot of us, especially who have this ability, come from that type of place. We've had some form of experience with it.
I think so.
Yeah.
I believe so too.
Okay. So let's go on to number 6 on his list. And number 6 is knowing psychics. And he says you might have had bad experiences with a psychic. Maybe in the past a psychic told you something that caused you pain or caused old problems to reemerge. Instead of dealing with them as you should have, you've programmed your mind that psychics are causing the pain and problems, which kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. And if you don't want to cause problems and pain, then you will block your own efforts in psychic development. Maybe you have met a psychic that was just, but the article says this, maybe you have met a psychic that was just an asshole. Such people happen too. Meeting one psychic ass when you're not really aware of the reality of the world might cause another bad pattern to be programmed. So this is such an awesome article. I will post it on the Universal Journeys Facebook page. Everyone, if you want to go read it, it is very entertaining.
Absolutely.
And then,
I mean, that's awesome.
Right. And lastly, he says, some psychics don't understand many things. When they talk about seeing spirits, they present it as a very scary experience. When they talk about psychic empathy, they say it's a curse. When they talk about knowing things, they also would rather not have this gift because it's awful. And your subconscious listens, and it records all of these bad opinions about psychic abilities. And, you know, that raises a very good point, because I think we have to be careful with the different psychics that we encounter, because some people may willingly, you know, admit to themselves, yes, I am a psychic, but at the same time they'll sit there and degrade their own gifts. I've known people who have said that, oh, my empathy is a curse because it just brings me the pain of other people, but they don't take into consideration what good it does to other people, or what good it's capable of potentially doing. And unfortunately, people who do have uncultivated abilities, if they hear that, then they're never going to want to start paying attention to their own gifts. They're going to just sweep them under the rug, just like the person did that they heard it from, which is sad.
Right. It is sad. And I think some of the psychics who do that have not learned or have not been taught how to properly recognize the gift that they have and what they can do to protect themselves from it. And that is an issue, because we have to learn this. I remember going through it through all my life because of being empathic and trying to figure out, okay, and I didn't know how to do this until my, 30s, latter 30s, early 40s and stuff like that, is realizing that some of this stuff is not mine. And being empathic, especially empaths, being empathic, we take on other people's stuff and we don't even realize we think it's ours because we don't know any better. We do not know any better. And then when we come across someone who can help us, and I want to say a good psychic or a good intuitive who understands and can help them or help that individual to recognize, to overcome, and to protect, once we do that, once we come in contact with that individual, it makes it much easier. So who we connect with, when we connect with it, and how we connect with is a big thing. And I know that there are people who are loved ones of psychics who would not say what this young man said in this particular thing. When you were reading, I'm thinking, what, really? They do that stuff? Because I wouldn't do that. So I wouldn't think about those things. But I can understand why individuals would not want to do that because of, it being a curse. It's a gift.
Exactly, yeah.
It's a gift. You just have to realize how to use that gift, and it is a gift.
If we choose to define it as a curse, then it will become a curse. If we choose to accept it as a gift, it'll be a gift. It's all about the perceptions we place upon things. If we place a negative perception on something, then what we're going to get is a negative response. People don't realize that. And there are psychics out there who don't realize that.
When Nathaniel said that in that particular article about being disenchanted by a psychic, by being with a psychic, I wonder whether or not that individual actually connected with the psychic to use that psychic's ability, and it didn't work out to their advantage.
That is possible.
Yeah.
That's something that I don't think happens frequently, but it is definitely possible.
Yeah, it is. That's something. And as intuitives and psychics and stuff like that, we really have to watch what we say to people and how we present it, because some people hold on to that like gold, and they manifest those things, and we really have to watch that because we're playing with people's lives. And if you're not, go ahead.
Go ahead, Brenda, dear.
No, you go ahead.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, our gift gives us a lot of power because, I mean, a person has to be in a vulnerable state in order to come to a psychic for guidance. So that person's future is basically placed in our hands at that point in time.
That's right. And when we abuse that, we're no different than religious people who try to control.
Exactly.
Yep.
All right. Go ahead.
Okay, Duster in the chat room says law of attraction in the works. You do have law of attraction, and we are brought together to learn from one another. It depends on how we learn and what we learn. And then she also puts in there, yes, speaking for myself, I am here to learn. And that's another thing with intuitive psychics, mediums, anybody in the spiritual realm, is if you think you have it all, you are sorely mistaken, because there are more things out there for you to learn each and every step of your evolutionary process. There's an old saying out there, the more I know, because things start to open up more and more. So what you may take for granted today may totally change tomorrow. And it does.
Exactly. Definitely.
So we don't have it. We don't have it all. We only have a slight piece of the puzzle.
Well, the important thing about learning is also, I mean, at some point in time, you're going to end up having to teach as well. And being a teacher now, I understand this more than ever, and I think that this can apply to any aspect of life. Even when you're teaching, even when you feel like you have reached a level where things are going to, flatten off when it comes to knowledge, you're always going to learn, and I think that's what makes it just rewarding. There is always more things to learn and more things to help you grow from.
Yep. And we need to stay open to all of that. Things change all the time. We can't stay the same. Everything is evolving.
Exactly.
We're evolving. That's why things are brought into our lives, to help us learn, to help us change.
Well, and some people have a fear of that growth too, a fear of that evolution, which is why I mean that could be a psychic block. And that actually leads me into the last part of this article, which is number 7, and he says it's fear of being yourself. You might be afraid that people won't accept you as a psychic and that you're not worth where you're not worth having such abilities, that you will not make yourself enemies, that you will be afraid of the opinions of others and about you being a psychic. You must let go of your fears and be yourself and be proud of yourself. And he goes on to say bad experiences have to be healed through work within your core. Negative beliefs need to be reprogrammed by affirmations. Patterns will disappear through simple energy work, and no mind techniques are necessarily required. And I think, though, I will completely agree, because I do think that energy work involves a certain degree of mental work as well, because everything is connected, It may take a while, it may take years to reprogram your mind, but he says, think about this. If you won't start today, then you're not going to make any progress tomorrow. And when you will use all of the techniques that are available, energy work, psychic practice, breathing, affirmations, core images, and within a few weeks, you will experience progress. And within a few months, you will awake your psychic intuition. And from that, everything else is just patience and practice. And he concludes the article on that point, and I completely, wholeheartedly agree with it. It takes patience and practice in order to overcome those psychic blockages.
Absolutely. Sometimes it takes longer than what you want it to, but it's well worth the working through in the end.
Exactly. And there's always go ahead, Brenda.
Go ahead. No, I was
going to say there's always this underlying latent fear that prevents us from accepting our abilities, and I think that's what he was talking about. That's basically what I was going to say.
Yep, that's good. That is true. It is true. So, with that said, do we want to call the caller in?
Of course.
Here we go. Hello, caller, you're on the air. Hello? Are you there? Nope, they are gone.
Could be just a listener.
It could have been. So, but those fears, and they can be very big fears, and very big blockages, and very big scars, but once we start working on ourselves, and that's really where we have to start with all of this, is working on ourselves, overcoming those particular fears, blockages, scars. Once we do that, they start to fall away a little bit at a time. And before you know it, you're on the other side and saying, wow, look where I've come.
Right. Exactly. And see, the thing is, though, here is the main point I think that we've worked through this entire show. If you have psychic abilities, distancing yourself from them is not going to solve any problem. If anything, it'll simply exacerbate a problem. Surround yourself with people who can help guide you and teach you and show you how you can cultivate them. Don't let your relationships in life interfere with your psychic abilities. Don't let insecurities interfere with them. Don't let the exterior world define the interior world. I think that's what we need to take away from this. And I think a lot of the time that's where the complications arise. When we let those two cross, that's how we lose ourselves.
Right, and it takes a lot of reprogramming the brain. Literally, you have to reprogram the old worn out, and I say worn out because it's still playing in our brain about some of these things. And we have to reprogram ourselves to be open to this stuff. And working on yourself is not an easy process because guess what? You get to see all your stuff. You get to see all your negativity and what you've done and what you've said, and that can be tough. The self-realization can be tough, but it's well worth it in the end. And it can hurt, and it does hurt when we work on ourselves. You know, you start to see yourself through other people's eyes, and that can be tough.
Precisely.
You don't want to believe you're that way. Yeah, because you don't want to believe you're that way, and you know, there you are. Well worth it, though.
And the thing is also learning how to detect when a blockage starts to form. Like I know for me, my psychic blockages are usually triggered by insecurity or a sense of inferiority to other people, and you know, it's something that I've always had. It's something that I'll probably always will have for the rest of my life. It's all about learning how to go with the flow and ask myself those questions. Where is this insecurity coming from? Why is it happening? What can I do to get through it? Maybe there isn't anything I can do to get through it. Maybe I just have to go with the flow, ride the rapids, and let it resolve itself. People don't always realize that sometimes things have to resolve themselves. Going back to that whole religious aspect we were talking about earlier, sometimes we need to take the responsibility and do something about it instead of being like, oh, let's let God deal with it. Let the universe deal with it. Sometimes you have to deal with it yourself. Sometimes you have to take that responsibility.
I would say the majority of the time you have to take that responsibility.
Agreed. Definitely.
You know, and when you learn to start taking responsibility, things start to change in your life. And they start to change for the betterment. And you're like, oh, okay, I know why that happened because of this. And oh, okay, that was me. I did that. I started that. that my attitude or the way I've been thinking, that started that. That was my issue. In even an incident this last week at work, even though I was on vacation the week before that, an incident happened that was toward me, and I could see where that happened. I could see where I manifested earlier in someone else. So it was like, okay, got to change that. So, and it's my responsibility.
Well, and the thing is, I'm also the kind of person who, if I do something, if I project something that affects another person, I really get down on myself for it. Really do. And I think what we need to tell ourselves if that happens is sometimes that will happen. Sometimes, like, we can't expect to control it all the time. Because remember, we're juggling multiple aspects of our lives, and it takes a lot to be able to balance it. We can't be on our A game all the time. That's something that has to be accepted.
Yep. And when we do that, when we get down on ourselves, it's a form of bullying. It's a self-bullying, like you mentioned in previous shows.
Exactly. And self-bullying is a psychic block. I mean, if you're going to sit there and tell yourself you can't do it, that it's not worth it, then you're just going to embody this can't do it, not worth it identity, and that's not healthy at all.
No. I have to agree with that, too.
Well, and Duster says, isn't forgiving ourselves part of it also? Yes, I completely agree. For one of our greatest fears, one could argue, is learning to forgive ourselves, because we think that makes us vulnerable or that makes us weak. Forgiving ourselves isn't weak. In fact, I would argue that is strength. It takes a lot of strength to be able to do that.
Well, you know, as you were talking about one more thing, as you were talking about that, I was thinking that, you know, we're afraid that if we accept what we've done, that we'll do it again and again and again and again. So there's a block there too. So that is interesting. So
definitely.
With that said, we're going to advertise the shows here on Mystical Awakening. Monday nights we have True Paranormal from 8 to 10. Sacred Journeys is on Tuesdays from 7 to 9. Mystical Awakenings is on Wednesdays from 7 to 9. And I love the title of this one. Is What the Hell Was That? On Saturday nights from 9 to 11. And, of course, we are here on Sunday nights, Universal Journeys, from 7 to 9. So with that said, guys, you know, we thank everyone for being here, and hopefully we will see you next week right here on Universal Journals Radio. Love you guys. Thanks, Deb. Fantastic show always. Love you guys. See you later.